What's up, everybody? So there's some more news coming out in the Scott Peterson case. Scott Peterson is currently attempting to get a new trial, and the Los Angeles Innocent Project recently took up his case. Now, this new article is from CBSNews.com and is linked in the description below. It's about how a former investigator says potentially important evidence was overlooked in Scott Peterson's case. The person they are talking to is former Modesto fire investigator Brian, Spitultski. I'm going to call him Brian. This is where he comes into the picture. My motivation in this is how it's always been. Let the facts say what they need to say. He comes forward with a clear message. First, that his intention is not to free Scott Peterson. Second, he has no desire to cast any blame on any of the original investigating agencies like the Modesto Police or the Modesto Fire. However, he does say there is something about this case that has bothered him for years. The question being, why a van fire so close to Laci Peterson's home when she went missing, in his opinion, was never properly investigated. And could this all be connected somehow to Laci Peterson's murder? Brian is now a private fire investigator, but on Christmas morning in 2002, he worked for the Modesto Fire Department and was sent to investigate a van fire that he still thinks about to this day. I knew we didn't have a fire that would be accidental. It just came one day after, less than a mile away from where Laci was reported to have gone missing from her Modesto home. But it wasn't that I thought it was connected. It was that it was close enough that it should be looked at. Was it obvious to you right away that there was blood in the van? The reporter asked. No, he responded. The only reason we were able to see this piece of fabric was because there was a metal container on the top of the mattress, and it left a perfect circle for where the container protected it. That it had it not been there, this wouldn't be happening. He states that when he tested the mattress fabric for blood, the sample turned blue. This, he said, indicated the sample presumed positive for blood. In court filings by the LA Innocent Project's attorneys, they described the mattress with stains that tested presumptively positive for blood, adding that only a very small portion of the mattress fabric was tested for DNA, which was insufficient to determine whether DNA from Laci and or Connor was present. After investigating the fire, Brian said he and another detective drove the sample to the Department of Justice for testing. Those results, however, found the fabric was negative for human blood. It bothered me for a long time that it was blood with one sample, and whatever the DOJ did with it, it came back negative. Did we give them a bad sample? How did we get here? He said. When the DOJ comes back and says it's not human blood, the importance of the van diminishes a bit, and at least from the peak where they were thinking it could be involved with the disappearance of Laci Peterson. Now it is not so important, and then it kind of just disappeared from there. I don't know what happened with it, and I never looked into it any further. Brian left the Modesto Fire Department shortly after this investigation in 2003 for reasons unrelated to the Peterson case. It was then he went into private fire investigation. He was not kept in the loop about the inaccuracies of the investigation since his departure, but assumed the van's possible connection would be looked into. So I imagine my shock when I found out just a few years ago that it did test positive for human DNA. I had no clue up until this point. I literally got goosebumps and the hair on the back of my neck stood up because it does mean something. It's significant, he said. The significance is something that started keeping Brian up at night when he started to see Peterson on his TV every night. The trial, and I wasn't connected on it. Nobody ever knew about it. all the news programs that came on and nobody ever talked about it. But to be fair, this wasn't brought up in court. And if it's relevant, I would want somebody to say something about it if it was important enough. You just have to look at it. You have to. Brian says no one from the defense or prosecution ever approached him for insight as to this van fire investigation and any connection it could have to Laci Peterson's disappearance and murder. Oh, absolutely, he said. I thought up until the trial that there would be some discussion about it. I would listen and ask if I needed to be on standby, and there was never any acknowledgement or a concern. So I just assumed it was done and it became a non-issue. In court filings, the LA Innocent Project makes a big allegation, one Brian won't go as far to agree with. Police systematically ignored any and all potential exculpatory evidence that did not support their theory of Mr. Peterson's guilt. That is what the court filings read. That includes the court documents say refusal to investigate who set fire to the van. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus because I don't know. All I know is that nobody ever talked to me. It was an important piece of the puzzle. I think now that we are aware of it, somebody should allow that to be looked at and to be identified as a yes or no, whether it's an issue or not an issue, human DNA or it's not. Then we are done with it and it's over. The long shot chance that Peterson is granted a new trial, Brian said he would testify to all of this if called to do so. Just to be clear, this is not you saying you think Scott Peterson is innocent, he was asked. No, I don't care one way or the other about Scott Peterson, whether he is innocent or guilty. The only tie I have to that is the van. So this former firefighter turned investigator definitely seems to think that this van should be looked at, and it absolutely should. Any and everything connected to Laci Peterson's murder and disappearance, whether it proves Scott Peterson is guilty or not, needs to be looked at, and this van should definitely be looked at to confirm whether it is human DNA, human blood, or not. I don't know why they would have just dropped that. It seems like they had one positive test and one negative test. Why wouldn't you have done more tests to see what it actually is? Hopefully they are able to do that now. But what do you think? What do you think of what this former investigator had to say? Do you think that this van is connected to Laci Peterson's murder and disappearance? Let me know. Leave some comments below. I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you again soon.